15. This is Dan Olmsted, historian at the National World War II Museum. Today I am in New Orleans, Louisiana. Sir, what is your name, please?
Frank L. Lombardo.
Frank, where were you born?
In New Orleans, Louisiana.
What was your birthday? What day?
January the 10th, 1920.
Did you grow up in New Orleans?
Well, half and half, with boarding school of 10 years. I was raised like St. Paul's in Covington. The only time you went home was for Christmas and Easter. Mardi Gras missed completely. 5 years at St. Paul. They didn't have a 8th grade. We went from 7th to high school, freshmen and so forth. At St. Paul, I played all 4 sports of football, basketball, track, and baseball. Those were the 4 main sports. I managed to get into the Hall of Fame and also a scholarship to Loyola University
So when you graduated,
for football.
So when you graduated from high school, you went to Loyola?
Loyola. Played football for 3 years there. They dropped football in my senior year. And the reason why they dropped it, everything was going bad. They dropped baseball, they dropped all the sports at that time.
So when you graduated from college?
Yes, I graduated from college in July of 1941. I was subject to the draft. So what I thought I would do, since there was no ROTC at Loyola, that I would go with the Navy for training school to be an officer. I was turned down because of 20/40 vision in my left eye, although my right eye was 20/20. Subsequently, Japan hit Hawaii. At that time, I said, something's going to happen now.
Where were you at that morning when you had heard the Japanese attack Pearl Harbor?
I was exactly with my mother and my aunt and my 2 sisters. I was driving them for a ride and so forth. And believe it or not, it was right between Loyola and Tulane University. And this was around noontime, I believe, 12:30, 1 o'clock. And that's when I said, oh, something's going to happen now. At that time, though, I was working at night, midnight, at Armour & Company with the idea of becoming a salesman, learning all the products. And believe it or not, I was working for $17 a week. But then, once that Hawaii got hit like that, subsequently, I was drafted. March the 4th, I have the document for that. I became what they call it, a man to run with the 50 guys that were going to, what's the name of the camp? Camp Beauregard.
Up in
at Camp Beauregard, Louisiana, near Alexandria.
Right.
And they gave me the name of Liberator. Oh, not Liberator, there's another word for it. I have the document on the desk. That's why I wanted to bring the documents with me. But nevertheless, sometimes I can't remember everything like I should. It's unbelievable how my mind works sometimes.
Yes, it is.
But anyway, I'm in charge of these men. And the only way I understand that possibly I was in charge of them is because of my graduation from Loyola University, and because all of these men were different lifestyle. They were welders maybe, and worked in different places and so forth. Of course, the job that I had was to learn to be a salesman at the time with Armour & Company. I don't know if you heard of Armour & Company. It's a big outfit.
Right.
So anyway, I was in charge of these people on, I believe it was March the 4th of 1942. And we went to Camp Beauregard, Louisiana. The next day, that's when we were inducted into the service. I became a private. And most of the men were working in a kitchen, a mess hall, and so forth that we had brought over from New Orleans. And I was instructed to clean garbage cans, believe it or not. Garbage cans. So anyway, this lasted for about 2 months, I would say. We had no special particular organization at that time there. But the group that I was with, by railroad to Fort Benning, Georgia, went to Fort Benning, Georgia. We didn't know where we were going, to be truthful with you. It looked like it was all top secret, let's put it that way. Very top secret. And once we got over to Fort Benning, Georgia to get off the railroad train and so forth, there's a colonel and a major. And the first thing they mentioned, gentlemen, all of you are now mechanics. And this was with what they called a 78th Quartermaster Battalion, which did third echelon maintenance work. So anyway, at that time I decided, I said, well, let's see what I'm going to do with this organization. I don't know nothing about mechanics and so forth. But they put me in charge of all of the personnel records and vehicles that they worked on, welding and so forth. So I did all of that, and in 1 or 2 months, I was learning how to weld even. I'd go to the shop where they were welding, I welded. So I wouldn't know how to do that today at all. Unbelievable. So, and then there were exercises, calisthenics. Well, I was in good, great shape. I was about 165 pounds and muscular and so forth. I'm now down to 140.
You were in good shape though, because you were athletic.
Yeah, I was athletic. And I played basketball out there at Fort Benning, Georgia, and so forth. And there weren't not too many that did that. And I gave calisthenics, so forth, exercises to the men. So then at that time, there was a captain that was from a Georgia Tech. He graduated from Georgia Tech. And I just said to myself, my goodness, he's a captain. I'm just a little private right now. But I did get to be a sergeant eventually in 2 or 3 months, that quick. So I decided to go to OCS, Officer Candidate School. And of course, Fort Benning, Georgia was known for, as an infantry combat outfit, paratroopers and so forth. There was nothing open like finance or the quartermaster like I was in already. And so I decided to go with the engineer school. So sure enough, I went before a colonel and a lieutenant colonel, I think it was, or a captain at that time, to be questioned and so forth. And of course, coming from a bakery, see, we had a bakery in New Orleans and a macaroni factory. My father came from Sicily in 1896 with his brother. So naturally, I worked a little bit in a bakery during my vacation time from boarding school and so forth. And then I knew about bread and so forth. We didn't make cakes, but we made macaroni too. But the macaroni had been discontinued in 1920, just about the same time I was born, when my uncle died. So it was to my father to run everything, and my grandfather had died before that. So naturally, when they questioned me about the bakery business, they asked me one thing: what made the bread rise? And the answer to that is yeast.
Right.
The next thing they asked me, all about New Orleans. Unbelievable. I passed the test. So then I was sent to Fort Belvoir, Virginia, which was the engineer school. And in 3 months, I became what they call a 90-day wonder, a second lieutenant. And that was tough there. I had seen sergeants, master sergeants, and sergeants just leave Fort Belvoir, Virginia. They didn't care for all the tactics by these tactical officers. They would try to see how much you could take.
Right.
And I believe that my 10 years of boarding school is what helped me out.
Probably did.
Considerably.
You were used to rough discipline.
That's right. That's right. The Christian brothers at St. Paul, they can't do that today. Boy, they'd hit the hell out of you. So forth. Excuse me. If that's coming on a machine.
So for you, discipline was just a regular part of life.
But nevertheless, I pass. I have documents. I have documents for all of that from the move from New Orleans all the way to the end of the war. I have documents for that to show you. I also, at the same time after I graduated, I brought another second lieutenant with me. We were second lieutenants. We were going to Camp Claiborne, Louisiana. Unbelievable. Camp Claiborne, Louisiana, close to home.
Yeah, outside of Alexandria.
Yeah, Alexandria. And so before I went directly to the camp, I had this other officer with me. We came right to this house. This house was built in 1938 while I was still at Loyola, so forth. And it was my mother here, my aunt, and my two sisters. Not my sisters. It can't be my. Yeah. No, I'm getting it all mixed up at that time. I wasn't married. See, that's what happens to me. It was my two sisters. That's right. My two sisters. Same. One was older than me. One younger than me. And so we occupied the house here. We had 3 bedrooms upstairs. And my aunt and my mother. So anyway, going after that. So I brought the officer coming from Fort Belvoir, Virginia, because we were assigned to Camp Claiborne, Louisiana camp. And so we stopped here for a while. I went with my girlfriend at the time from Loyola to the Blue Room. And we also went to see Whirlaway Run, the horse that was really, that's the only time I've been to the fairgrounds, that particular year of 1942. December of 1942 is when I graduated from the OCS, Officer Candidate School. So then, of course, we decided to go finally to Camp Claiborne, Louisiana, and then from there, I got assigned to what they call the 498th Engineer Heavy Shop Company, which was a 5th echelon maintenance work. That's the highest. We were a support group, in other words.
And this is at Camp Claiborne?
At Camp Claiborne, right. We were, that's correct. And at Camp Claiborne, we were right in the camp, and then they put us into bivouac. Once you got into bivouac, this means there was a movement to be made. Now, I was the only single officer in the company. We had 5 officers, a captain, 4 lieutenants, myself. But these master sergeants and tech sergeants, boy, they were great with machinery. I come to find out, when I was giving calisthenics there, the sergeant major, or the first sergeant, Sergeant Thompson, says, "Lieutenant, do you know how old some of those men are?" I said, "No, sir." He says, "Well, they range anywhere from 35 to 45 years of age. They're all from New York, Brooklyn, and so forth." They thought I was from Brooklyn, New York. So, unbelievable. And he says, "Take it easy on them, because they're all finesse people with mechanical work." And most of them were all volunteers. I didn't know that. So when I was giving calisthenics, I was gung-ho, you know, and so forth. And that's what happened. But anyway, we finally moved away from Fort Benning, Georgia. It was at Fort Belvoir. No, Fort Benning, Georgia. I'm getting mixed up. Or was it? No, we were in Camp Claiborne then.
That's right.
Camp Claiborne. See, I get mixed up there. But anyway, from Camp Claiborne, again, we make our movement. Didn't know where I was going at the time. Thought we were going close to, for the Japanese side, but we're going to the Germany side.
Okay.
So that meant we went to New York.
Did it make any difference to you at the time if you went to Japan or if you went to Germany?
Well, I think it would. Yeah. I rather, what I did, I was lucky.
Okay.
Let me put it this way. I was extremely lucky throughout the entire war.
Right.
I was just a lucky, lucky man. And I'm still a lucky person right at this time with these 3 daughters of mine and my 2 sons. Mm-hmm. See? But nevertheless, we went to New York, not in a bivouac area, Camp Shanks, Camp Shanks. And it so happens that, as I mentioned to you, the men in our organization were from New York and so forth.
Right.
Okay? Well, it helped me out because my sergeant in the office with me, he was a New Yorker. And he was a Jewish man. I don't know what religion you're with. I'm Catholic. But nevertheless, he took me along. We had 2 ladies with us. I have the picture of that particular, went to the nightclub in New York. And then in a few days, we moved, and again I was lucky, on the Queen Mary, the big ship. 5,000 troops at least. Half of them had to sleep on deck because there was not enough room inside. And this was crossing the Atlantic Ocean, and I didn't know exactly where we were going. But we had to escape from these U-boats, the submarines,
Right.
German submarines. It took us 5 days, and in 5 days, we landed at...
Did you go in convoy with other ships?
I don't think so. I don't remember that part, to be truthful. But
That's
I
pretty
know.
fast, though, to make it in 5 days.
Yeah, that's right. And especially escaping from the submarines of the Germans all over the Atlantic. At that time, too, we didn't think too much about it. We had this, on this big boat, I mean, that Queen Mary was terrific. We had for the officers the entire ballroom. And there were nurses and so forth. And, well, all officers at that time, not for the enlisted men. See, I was an officer, so I was lucky. And they sang everything, playing the piano and so forth, as if nothing had happened, you know. So then we landed at Glasgow, Scotland at midnight. Oh, well, while we were at it, though, we had to prepare every morning, put the gear on in case the U-boats would be right on us, would jump into the water and so forth, to save our lives and so forth. But anyway, we landed in Glasgow, Scotland. I didn't know we were there at Glasgow, Scotland until after, in complete blackout. So we're in complete blackout. We finally marched. We had vehicles and so forth, and we went to Cambridge, England. Cambridge, England. I'm trying to give you the story from the beginning to the end. So in Cambridge, England, we're there at nighttime, and we occupying these huts. I have a picture of that. And one of the officers, oh no, the Germans were bombarding. We're only 40 miles from London.
Right.
The Germans were hitting. And one of the officers, let's get out of here. And I said, I'm staying right here. Because what difference does it make if you're outside or in here? You don't know what's going to happen. Right. That's the way I looked at it. Mm-hmm. So we stayed in Cambridge, England, for 1 solid year. I was sent to waterproofing school. Now, I believe I became a second lieutenant while I was there. I mean, a first lieutenant, second lieutenant, first lieutenant. Sent me to waterproofing school to learn how to waterproof vehicles.
And get ready for the big invasion.
For the invasion, right?
Right.
You said it just then. And, well, we were ready. The invasion came. We were not called until 2.5 months after we took, then we engaged with, in other words, our troops landed at, oh man, what's the name of that place now? In France. Normandy, France.
Normandy in June
Normandy,
6th,
France.
right, 1944.
The beachhead.
Yes.
The beachhead.
Omaha
beachhead. So anyway, the waterproofing deal, we still had it because I was with the first ship to go to the beachhead with our vehicles, just in case we'd be in, well, we were okay. But what made me so sick to see, believe me now, I'm telling you, the bodies in the water.
Now you went to in Normandy after June 6th, though, right?
Oh yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
Oh
There
yeah.
still was a lot of
yeah.
corpses laying around.
Oh, yeah. In other words, we went June, July, about August, latter part of August.
Okay.
And at that time, naturally the Germans were moved out, and I believe they also were moved out as with Paris.
Mm-hmm.
But we went into bivouac there. Now, you know, I don't remember too much about how we ate and so forth. I know we had the sea rations and all that.